context. I believe we are all in Singapore, and we are all involved in some form of teaching and coaching. So this is our context. And we are all like this bunch of animated creatures here. We are the coaches, the teachers, the cikgu, the shifu, and these are our students. Okay, these are all our students, our trainees, our athletes. So we have to understand they all look very different. They all function very differently, and they all have their own idiosyncrasies. So my question to you is, can we use the same teaching style for all of them? And do they all make the same type of decisions? Or you make all the decisions for them? So these are some key questions that we need to understand. And to understand the spectrum of teaching style, you only have to remember two things: coach's decision, student's decision. Okay, so these two things will guide the way that we manage or teach or coach our students and athletes. So amongst us, some of us are involved in coaching individual sports, some of us team sports. For us PE teachers, we basically we have 40 students each day, okay, and they're all different, and also the gender is also different. So my one of the key things I need to inform you is that you know, we have been coaching for many years, teaching for many years. We definitely have to apply different strokes for the different folks. And of late, we come up with another thing. I mean, I don't know, you know, Wang Yu and I came out with something called do anything that works for them. Regardless of what you do, what works for them. So I'll start off with a bit of background. I'll gloss through this very quickly because these are two very important people that started the spectrum. So first and foremost is Dr. Mushka Moston. He is a very talented educator, all-round sportsman, adventurer. He taught in both classrooms and he plays at high-level sports. So he came out with a paradigm, a new paradigm about teaching and learning, and it applies to all subject matters. So for those of you who think that spectrum is only for PE and sports, unfortunately it's not. It's also for across the other subject matters. What the spectrum expose for us, okay, rather wants us to know about is that we cannot be teaching one way all the time. We must develop as teachers a repertoire of professional behaviors so that the students, so there's nothing, it's not, what we are trying to espouse is that we are dealing with learners and there are different types of learners. We cannot be using the same methods for all learners. So before he came out of the spectrum, he asked these few questions, and I think some of us should also ask ourselves these questions. Are we teaching based on our own idiosyncrasies? That means I was coached this way 20 years ago. So today, I will coach the same way to my athletes. Nothing has changed. I coach the way I want to coach because I was coached this way. And if you can if you can receive it, good for you. If you can't, you can ship out. Are we doing that now? Secondly, is there more than one teaching and coaching approaches? I saw a lot of responses just now. Some of them quite interesting, autocratic, democratic, blah, blah, and so forth. But command and practice seems to come out a lot.
Into your space and get ready for the warm down.
Okay, is there more than one coaching as responses? Coaches.
Once you're ready, move back to your space.
Are there many approaches? So what style is he using now? I wonder. So obviously it's a bit more like command style. Never mind. Okay, another person I need to talk about is Dr. Sarah Ashworth. She came to Singapore about 3 years ago. If Moston is the father of spectrum, then Sarah Ashworth is the mother of the spectrum. Over the last 40 years or so, she has been very much involved in both as an educator as well as a working in university. She has also single-handedly nurtured the spectrum to keep it alive for the past 40 years. And this is written 10 years ago, so it's now past 50 years. In fact, she founded the Spectrum Institute, which I will share with you later. That's where you can even download a free book Okay, this is non-profitable. So she's not making money out of this. So she came and she was our visiting fellow. She came and conduct courses for our teachers. She was a keynote speaker for our conference too. So we got close, and I'm supposed to meet her this coming October, but in a situation like this now, I don't think we can be there to meet her. So before I start off the spectrum, I need to preamble this for you. A lot of time, even myself, we got a bit muddled up. Modern spectrum of teaching style is not a model, it's not an approach, it's not a strategy, it's not a frame, it's not a program. When I meant program is those paid programs. It is just a repertoire of skills or styles that teachers and coaches should have in order to meet the learning needs of our students. So teaching is an action that results in learning. Okay, so we teach so that it results in learning. We teach not because we want to look good. We teach because we want it to be valuable to the kids. So anyway, this is the spectrum of teaching styles. If you go on Google, you can Google this spectrum of teaching styles. This will appear. You just go into the website. You'll be able to see a lot more about the spectrum, and of course, that's what I mentioned. You can download the online edition, the book for free. It's a very thick book, and you just have to submit your email address. Okay. So this is something that I'd like to share with you. Okay, I won't be going through this because this usually takes about a day to a day's workshop or 2 days workshop. So I won't go through the final points of it, but I'll zoom in very much on the features of the style. So there are 11 teaching styles. The bottom one you see is the reproduction style. Reproduction is the students or the athletes reproduce what you want them to do. They reproduce the actions for you. They reproduce everything that you want them to do. Then, after this style, after style E, inclusion, you move over to the threshold. The next threshold is guided discovery. I saw some of the responses there, guided discovery, and I will touch a little bit more on guided discovery afterwards. The key word here is discovery. So they produce knowledge themselves. You will take a little backseat. You will frame it for them, but they will be the one. They will be producing the results for you. Results in terms of knowledge. So first and foremost, I need you to take a look at this diagram here. So here is all the styles, A, B, C, D, all the way to K. So A is command style, B is practice, and so forth, all the way to self-learning. If you look at this bar here, at command style, the coach's decision is the maximum and the athlete's decision is the minimum. So you make the most decision at the command style, okay, which I will allude to it afterwards. So far I'm okay, right? Mr. Smith, okay? Everybody is, and let me know if I'm going too fast.
Yeah, Ben, all good so far.
All good, huh?
Yeah.
Now, first and foremost, we are teaching, we are coaching. Subject matter is very important to us. So the subject matter remains constant. We will teach what we want to teach at any context. But there's one part in the spectrum that addresses the developmental effects. When we talk about developmental effects, we are talking about the channels in which our athletes, our students will benefit from. So these are the channels are physical, social, emotional, cognitive, moral, sexuality, mindfulness, and now technology. So using the different styles not only bring out the cognitive part or the physical part, certain styles will accentuate more the social part, the emotional part, which I will also share with you afterwards, and the moral part. Okay, so the subject matter constant, but if you use different styles, it will more or less also cover certain parts of the other channels that we want our athletes, our students to achieve and learn. I think I've gotten this from Azhar, but this is, coaching also have a similar continuum. So that's why I saw some words that's pretty similar. It also follows a colorful spectrum, and it may also more or less cover the same parts of it. So let's talk about command style. I'm going to play a video. The music may not sound out afterwards, but you will get the drift of what it is. Okay, yeah, you get the idea. Now, what comes to your mind when you watch this clip? This was a paragliding performance. I think this was once the world record of the number of paragliders coming together to form this shape and then break off from this shape. How many decisions should the coach make? So first you have to think about this. Okay, if you are doing this kind of very should I say dangerous, very highly precise movements and actions on cue, I've already given some hint already. Who makes the most decisions? Okay, so I don't think we need to hear from all, but anybody to unmute? We can unmute one or two if you want to, or we just take it that you reflect on you just think through. Now, we are talking about 150 over paragliders. Imagine if everybody makes a different decision or makes their own decision on when to part off, when to join, when to do this, when to do that. I think we will have the world record for disaster. Okay, so if you look at the pictures here, we have synchronized swimming, we have tandem diving or pet diving team. Question is, who makes the most decision in this very precise movement? Okay, so it has to be right on cue. It has to be a commanding performance. So when we say command style, a lot of people think command style is I give commands. I command, and everybody listen. No, commanding style, the root of it is giving a commanding performance, giving a very precise performance, and it is absolutely safe. For those of you who are track and field coaches, when you are doing javelin, you cannot just say that you can throw anywhere you want. You just practice on your own. I don't have to be there. You just take maybe some athletes can, some athletes can't. But for PE teachers, if they were to teach javelin, they definitely have to use the command style because they will cue every single movement so that we ensure maximal safety. So for command style to be used, it has to be a replication of high performance, replication of everything on cue. It has to be always repeated. And it's also predictable. Immediately when something goes wrong, a foot went off or something went off, the coaches will make immediate feedback. It is also efficient because I tell you do. You follow exactly what I do. You won't go wrong. Okay, so there's no decision by the performer. This is, in a nutshell, what command style is about. It is not a bad style. Don't get me wrong. Some people say command style only use it for discipline and for management. I need to change your mind on this. Command style is necessary for certain contexts, certain sports, certain movements, certain performances. Okay, so this is, I thought this is important for me to also share with you. And one thing about commanding style is it also promotes team spirit, team cohesiveness, because if everybody can do it on time, at the right time on cue, you are going to see a very highly polished performance. If you look at the All Blacks, the haka, if everybody go out of cue, you will see how ugly haka is, but you look at them, they are all on cue. And if you look at how they work on their haka, it's obviously using the command style. So as I mentioned earlier, for command style, it is the coaches making the maximum decision. The athlete's decision is minimal because they just have to follow what the coaches need them to do. Okay, there are also some pitfalls, and we have seen many times. Command style, you tend to talk a lot. You tend to give excessive instructions because you're worried that the students or the athletes are not even listening to you. So you are a bit hyper on make sure that they are attentive. So you give a lot of instructions, so much so that the athletes get bored and there's too little time for them to practice. Not synchronized. Sometimes because you are demanding this kind of actions, some of them may be off. Okay, this is also quite common to see. Unclear signals, because some of the athletes or some of the students may not get your signal, get your instruction. So in the end, you are either giving overlapping or very annoying signals to them so that they don't even know what's happening, especially for the very, very big groups. Excessive repetition, it will lead to boredom, fatigue, or even both. Okay, and some of them may not be challenged because they are repeating the action over and over and over again, and or for you may know, they may be scolded many, many times over again. So they get bored and they feel dissatisfied. Stopping, this one is quite common, especially for some of us. The entire team is performing, but there are one or two may have difficulty following the instructions or following the actions, and then we stop the entire team and scold the two of them. And that disrupts the flow of the practice or the performance, and of course the students or the athletes will get a bit disheartened after that. And for command style, tendency is for us to stay at one spot, and then just give instructions. Okay, so that's common pitfalls. Now, so what we need to now think, I earlier mentioned about decisions. Okay, what decisions do your athletes make during training? Now, why I allude to decisions a lot is because our athletes, our students, for that matter, our younger generation, they don't make a lot of decisions in their life. Every decision is made by the teachers, the parents, the coaches. So when it comes to decision making, they will just follow. They will not make decisions. So that also affects perhaps creativity, the bonus to try new things, or trying out something that is unconventional. Because everything is done. It's all follow me or ship out. So my question to you and for all of us to think about is, what decisions do your athletes do or your students do during training or during lessons? Okay, so this one you just have to think through whether do they make any decisions or you make most of the decisions regardless of any forms of training. So that brings me to practice style. Now, practice style, I will spend a little bit longer or a little bit more deliberate because I'll tell you why. Okay, because and just now also at a word cloud, a lot of you mentioned practice style. Now, there's a beauty in practice style, nothing wrong with that. Okay, but key thing is what decisions do they make during practice style. So this is me coaching shooting at Bhutan. Yeah, that was one of my stints in Bhutan some years back. Yeah, teaching them how to shoot. These are all trainee teachers. Anyway, it is widely known that practice style, individual practice style, is the most prominent style used by all teachers and coaches and even parents. It is widely used, so we will not go into say that this style will not be used anymore. We will continue because every day is a practice. I will share with you why every day is a practice. Okay, so rest assured, there's nothing wrong using practice style, but maybe we can consider this. Now you look at a young girl there brushing her teeth. Her mom is helping her to brush her teeth, and I wouldn't say she used command style. She used a practice style to go up, down, left, right, up, down. Slowly, as the girl matures, she will decide on the pace and rhythm of the brush. The parent can only just sit beside her and watch her, and later part, she can even practice on her own. So my point is here, practice style accords or affords for a lot of decision making in the classroom or in the training ground. First, location. Location is, do we as coaches and teachers decide what location they practice? As long as if for example, this is a football field, you set up the task, you want them to practice their passing skills, for example, passing drills. Why are we deciding for them where to practice? Let them decide. Give the responsibility to them to decide on the location so that they own the team. Order of tasks. We give them a few tasks. First, shooting skills, passing skills, pair practice, group practice. Let them decide on order of tasks. Of course, the caveat here is that you must know your athletes and students very well in order to do this. So we call the tight, loose, tight model. Tighten the first few parts, first few practice. Slowly, once you see the athletes or the students are able to understand how to manage themselves, then we will loosen up a bit. Okay, so it's a gradual dissolution of tasks, what you call decision. Starting time per task. This is quite common for teachers, especially primary school teachers. They will put everybody in one location and make them sit down and wait until the last pair or last individuals are ready. Okay, you can start playing now. So sometimes, dependent on groups and classes, by the time the last person settled down, the first few fellas are already making some, already creating some havoc already. So if we trust our students, we trust our athletes, once you tell them what to do, let them decide on what time, when to start. Pace and rhythm. It's quite obvious here, whether they want to do fast, slow, or whatever. This one may be more related to dance performance or whatever, okay, or shooting. You know, the rhythm, they decide on what kind of pace you work at. Sometimes they want to start slow because they find that they are trying to get into the rhythm. Sometimes they want to go fast. Let them be. Why are we stopping them? Why are we dictating their pace and rhythm? Stopping time per task is related to starting time per task. If they find that they have accomplished what they want to accomplish, they can move on to the next task, or they can do what we call the interval task. Interval task, I give you an example. You set up I use basketball as an example. You set up a series of dribbling tasks, dribbling and passing tasks, pair work, group work. Okay, this is in view of the usual practice during the last normal time. Now I don't think you can do that. Then once they are done with their practice, they think that they have done a very good job, you know, passing well and so forth, then they can stop. They can stop the task and go into interval tasks. Interval tasks, maybe they want to practice their individual dribbling skills, maybe they want to practice shooting, or maybe they just want to take a break or do some fitness work. So this interval task, I've been working with teachers a lot. They find it very useful because a lot of time in between tasks, pupils go into a downtime, or they slack off, or the training momentum or the teaching momentum or the learning momentum goes down because they are waiting for the next lesson, the next thing to happen. So during interval tasks, they can make decisions on what to practice as long as it's related to the content. Initiating questions for clarification. This is something that we are pretty weak at all levels because our students don't ask questions, and I don't know your athletes, do they ask questions in the first place, or they all wait for you to give them the answers. Attire and appearance may be related to all of you. Let them decide on what to wear for the training, the training kit, you know, so that they own the training. They come in with an appearance, with an attire that is representative of them. Rather than tomorrow you must wear white jersey, tomorrow, unless it's competition, or you must wear red, no, you must all wear this. Let them decide as a team what do they want to appear in the next training. Posture wise, I think it's more related to performance, whether how they sit, how they stand, when you are giving instructions, how do they want to be seated down, standing up, or it could be something else. Could be a posture of, you know, whether they want to come in, want to decide on this. For example, gymnastics, do they want to start with this posture or that posture? Do we dictate the starting posture for them? We don't. Let them decide, because it's all practice anyway. Okay, any questions that you want to ask about practice? So now you can see the decision by the coaches is also shifting to allow more decisions made by the athletes. I'm okay to answer any questions on practice if you have any. I can wait for 8 seconds.
Ben, I guess one of the questions is related to what you've just said, right? I mean, and to the word cloud as well. Many coaches seem to reflect that the command style is the predominant style that they use. And I guess the perspective of the question is, why do you think the styles that are, where the coaches have got a lot more decision making seems to be the predominant style that people are experiencing or have experienced? Your thoughts on that?
I think it may be misconstrued as command style, because for command style, in the strictest sense, it is very much a very precise cue-on performance. That means the coaches will time it 1, 2, 3, 4. You do this. So I suppose a lot of us, depending again, is also context of what you're talking about. Is it a precision sport or is it a precision performance? I got a funny feeling is a lot of us misconstrued command style as we give the most commands. We command every time. I'm more inclined to say that these are all practice styles. The coaches give a lot of instructions. The coaches give a lot of hype the students up and everything like that. And they think it's command style. Yes, they are giving a lot more instructions, but not giving commands. Commands is very much cued on, precise on time, and high on safety. Means every single move the coaches will be dictating. Yeah. So we can't be dictating the speed of the pass. We can't be dictating how the ball rolls, but those were more towards the athlete's what we call ability. Now there's a question here, what is the challenge of using practice style? Personally, I feel there's no challenge. I think the challenge is always within us to let go of our decisions. So I don't think there's because we use it very predominant, it's a predominant style that we use, and it has been working all this while. So there is no disadvantage or there's no challenge. The challenge could be perhaps you are dealing with a very new group of athletes or students, and you are trying to desolute some of the decisions to them, like where they play, where they practice, what tasks they do, blah blah blah. And in the end, you will see mess. But let me talk about messiness. Messiness is necessary in all kinds of sports and PE lessons. I call it the organized chaos. As long as there's order in chaos, you will need some time for students to assimilate your instructions, because it could be a language, it could be a demonstration, it could be unclear, somewhere it's unclear. So let them simmer for a while. How would you progressively train athletes to reach a stage where they can decide? Decision making is very much a symbiotic relationship. It is also very much how you establish the relationship with your student, your athletes, and in particular in MOE we call it positive classroom culture. When there's trust in them, in you, they trust you to make decisions. They trust that you don't make them feel bad about what they're doing. Mutuality in terms of the contact. Progressively, you can give them some time to make some decisions. You can't make them do all the 9 decisions at one go. Perhaps one of the easiest one to start is location. Go and find a place where you can practice this part, the skills. Okay. How would you differ for different age group? We worked on very young kids, lower primary, and they are able to make decisions. In fact, I shouldn't say this, maybe it's half truth to it. The primary school kids make better decisions than the secondary school kids. The secondary school kids, sometimes you ask them to make decisions, I'm talking about age 13 to 16. They are very slow to assimilate your instructions. Maybe it's motivation, I'm not too sure. Or they have been so used to having parents, teachers, and coaches making decisions with them. But for the younger kids, somehow, once they understand your instruction, they are quite quick to react to what you want them to do. So practice style in its essence is it's a very important style that we use. But what I really want to share with you is that there are 9 decisions that can be made, and any of those 9 decisions, in a way, will help them to develop, to have thinking skills. And secondly, is also the assimilation to their team. They know that I am this team because I'm able to make some decision. Not my coaches make all my decisions. I have a part to play in this. So this is a start of decision making. Okay, are we good? We move on now. Okay, let's see. Now I'm going to touch on reciprocal style and self-check style, and this is particularly useful during this time where we practice social distancing. Style C and style D is, especially style C, reciprocal style, is a style that I use a lot when I work with teachers in school. Now I'll show you a video afterwards. It's a hang somewhere. Okay. Now, reciprocal style promotes moral and social development. Reciprocal because it involves 2 parties, involve 2 athletes working together, involve 2 students working together. Now, why it was mentioned is moral and social. I'm using an United States context, and especially now with the situation in US. The students over there and athletes over there, they have their own social groups. They don't work together. So the reciprocal style was being used in the classroom to break that social norms, using a piece of paper in between. So I will talk to you about a piece of paper. And when we use this style in school, this is from a quote from a teacher that I work with. I never expect teaching can be so liberating. I can now focus on helping those who needed my attention. I think many of you have this situation. You have about 20 or 30 athletes in your hand, young ones. And then each coaching session or each session you go into, you don't know who to focus. Everybody has its own little problems. Everybody, maybe the ones with a very high ability one, you want to challenge them. The lower ability one, push them. But when you go in lesson, you are totally, sometimes some of us are teachers, we go in, we don't know when to start because everybody needs our attention. Now, using the reciprocal style will help you in a way to zoom in on what you need to do in helping those who needed your attention. So, in this style, the students make the intrinsic decision to learn and learn alongside their peers. So, in this reciprocal style, there's a peer involvement. So there are 3 main roles: the teacher, coach, the performer, and the peer observer. And in my work with the school, we have to use this over a few lessons, or rather not a few lessons, but a few episodes in lesson. Before I go any further, some of you may have this question: if I go into a training session or lesson, must I use one style throughout? No, in a lesson you can use command style at the first part, the warm-ups. Maybe you want a synchronized warm-up. Then after that you go into a practice style. So you get them to practice, and then you can move into the reciprocal style and so forth. Maybe towards the gameplay, you can do some guided discovery, some convergent discovery. So the key thing to understand is the styles do not dictate the lesson. Am I right? Am I saying right? Okay. Basically, in a lesson or in a coaching session, you can deploy a few styles because the few styles will give you what you want in terms of development. So for this particular style, maybe for 15 minutes or so, the coaches or the teachers want to work on the particular content. But he will also want the performers, the students, all the athletes to work together. So you in this style, you have to specify very clearly your roles, what your roles are. So there are 3 roles. First, performer is the one performing. Peer observer is one observing the performer. The teacher or the coach is the one that is helping the observer, which I said later. So the main tool used, I mentioned a piece of paper, is usually there will be a criterion worksheet, or maybe nowadays we have digitalized worksheet. And inside the worksheet is where the teachers will input very accurate instructions, success criteria that's being described. So you don't need to talk to them. You somehow don't need even to give instructions. The criteria sheets will give you the entire suite of instructions. And we have once I tested, we have tried this out with P4, primary 4 kids, which is about 10 years old, 10, 11 years old, 10 years old. And we gave them a new task. The new task is incline, flex, unhang. It's more of the NAFA test item. And we gave them the criterion worksheet. Every instruction is given. They are able to operate at 10 years old. They are able to work as a pair to practice a particular routine or activity, as long as there is something is very clear to them. There could be pictures, words, and so forth. And now with digitalized platforms, you can even have videos. But the key thing here is this: it cannot be. It must be very clear. It has to be so clear, crystal clear, that the students or the athletes know what to do. Now, the teachers, why is it so liberating? The coach's main role is now to go and assist the observers and help the observers to observe and provide feedback. Okay, so this is something that the coaches can do, and it will defeat the purpose if the coaches go to the performer, because we don't want to get involved in the performer. Anyway, the roles will switch eventually. What we want to engage them is the observation skills. The best observers in sports also become very good athletes because they can observe others, they can pinpoint, they can troubleshoot. This is what we want to teach them. And of course, the feedback skills, how they give feedback to each other. Okay. Now, there's study, there's research evidence to suggest that when using the reciprocal style, I think most of us also will go through this, when we internalize the cues and we observe performance, when it's our turn to perform, we will get better at it because we have already internalized everything in our head really. And in fact, we have also a visual pictorial and visual image of what it should look like. So in the past, a lot of times we demonstrate, we tell them the cues and let them practice. And along the lesson or along the training session, the cues are not repeated. The cues are not even emphasized. So students will forget after a week. But once there's something visual for them to hold on to, a video or whatever, they will assimilate faster. And we are talking about the different learning styles. Now, never say this: you are now the teacher or the coach. Go and do it. Why so? Maybe I give you all to think about, why shouldn't you say, no, you are now the teacher, you are now my assistant teacher, you are now my assistant coach, you go and help ABC. I'll pause a while and I'll give you my take on this. And this is candid, but important. Okay, just to share a joke, what we observe when teachers start to say this, okay, now you're all my mini teachers, you're going to help your friends to get better at dribbling. You know what will happen? Every single student will emulate you as a coach or teacher. If you are the type that scream at the students, one day will scream at their friends. If you are a type that is highly agitated type, they will also be that kind of form. What we do not want is for them to emulate you. What we want them is to have their own character, using their own character to help their friends, using their own way to help their friends. I'm going to show you a video soon. Okay, you understand why. Now, I've tried this with secondary school teachers, students. So criteria is very important. And this student over here, he has learning difficulties. Okay. However, when this criteria sheet is presented to them, he was able to react to the criteria sheet. He was spot on. In fact, this boy, even the teachers couldn't go near him and tell him what to do. But the criteria sheet in a way, help him to learn. So this is one example of the importance of criteriaship. And this one I block out because it's sensitivity here. You just look at the two girls in action. They are practicing dribbling, and this is the piece of paper that is in between them. So this girl is helping the other one to get better at dribbling. And you look at their body actions. Okay. So back to this. So you can see that even at a very young age, they are able to interact with their friends as long as we give them very clear instruction what to do in the form of a criteria sheet, criteria worksheet, or some form of descriptors. Okay, so we have tried this out with very young students, and this is PE lesson. I think I suppose in the training session this can be done too. Now next is self-check, and I mentioned about the current situation where you really cannot have a lot of interaction between two athletes. You can use the same criteria sheet or another one. That, for example, you want them to work on certain things. They take ownership of learning. They just have to look at the criteria sheet and work on them. They say this is quite simple to understand. This is basically they check on their own. They check on their own. They don't need to interact with other students. They just have to do it. This is also an important skill because our athletes sometimes don't know how to self-check. So self-checking is another very important aspect of teaching, of learning, or the skills development that we want our students to be good at. So self-check is another style, which I think is quite straightforward. It's only for me to spend too much time on that. And come the inclusion style. Now, inclusion style is quite straightforward too. I think I just quickly explained to you. It's a slanting rope. Basically, the students make decision to work at their own pace. That's the key thing. So the coach's decision here is to select a content. Okay, you notice all this style, the coaches make the decision of content. They design the practice tasks, but now they factor in the levels of performance or the performance criteria. Okay, so for example, you want an easy, medium, hard, or for those doing performance sports, the targets. So this is the coach's decision, and now the students or athlete's decision. Where should I start? Should I start easy? Should I start medium? Or should I start hard? So when we try this out with students, of course, the boys are always very garang. They suddenly jump to the hard, and then they realize they feel badly. And that's where we want them to understand that if you cannot achieve that thing, it's okay. We just move back to the medium level and the easy level. So this, in a way, also help them to understand that you can practice at different levels and move up. So the decision is on them to decide where they want to start, how they want to practice, and where do they want to go to. Okay, so for example, I have maybe a shooting practice. I made only 1 out of 5 shots. This is maybe a difficult level or hard level. I will try shooting at closer range, so they move the distance closer. And this is a good decision because if they keep on missing the shots from afar, why are they still practicing? So they can make a decision to move back. They don't need to rely on us to move back. They just have to tell them, you just have to tell them this is a level, this may be under the basket, it's level 1, and so forth. And there's another decision to be made. I made 3 out of 5 shots. Should I stay or should I move? Well, they can make a decision. If they think that they are good enough to move, they move. But they think, no, I should make it all 5 out of 5, I will stay. So be it, let them do it. So this is the type of decision we want our students to make. They make the decision according to the performance, and they decide why they want to make the decisions. And a lot of athletes sometimes don't know what to do because they max out. They say, oh, I don't know what to do next. They tell me what to do next. I think if they can sort of understand that they can make some decision on their own training or their own performances, that'd be great. Now, this is a question posed to me quite often. Why if you don't want to move to another level? Can I just stay on a base level? I would say, why not? But of course, as a teacher, as a coach, if you see that they are making 5 out of 5 for 3 or 4 practices, you maybe can go there and nudge them a bit hey, you're quite good, you are able to do this and that, why don't you move next level, try it out. So this is where the coaching decisions or teaching decisions have to come in. Yeah, there are students out there I know of, they like to stay on the comfort zone. And it's our job as coaches and teachers to nudge them a little bit, to push the boundary a bit. Okay. So slanting rope is quite straightforward. As I say, criteria not met, they will go to the bottom criteria and try out again. If they're good enough, they move up. So this is a very straightforward concept. And when I work with Sarah Ashworth, she's the one who discovered this slanting rope, because everybody don't work at the same pace. They work at different paces. And why they call it slanting rope, we are using a jump rope as a metaphor. You jump lower and go higher. Some of them think that they can jump higher, they go higher, but they can't, they come down. So this is a slanting rope. Okay, I will pause here for a while. Yeah, I made a decision based on my ability. Any questions? So now we have moved from A to E. We are in good time. The rest I don't have to cover too fast. I cover quite fast. Any questions, major, any burning questions, or we can leave it to the end? Azhar, should we leave it to the end?
We can, but I guess at some point the questions about, you know, the context of these styles in specific sport like swimming. I think Michelle was asking that question, but I think we can take it at the end as well.
Okay, can. So there's in between the landmark styles, A to K, they're called landmark styles. As I earlier mentioned, A to E, from command all the way to inclusion styles, they are all reproduction of the coach's performance criteria or the coach's decision on content. Now, when come to the F onwards is the discovery threshold. That's where the students, all the athletes, begin to discover on their own some solutions, some movement solutions, some skill solutions, and so forth, some conceptual solutions also. So we are moving to the production styles now. Now, guided discovery. This is possibly one of the most difficult styles. Everybody like to use the word discovery style, but guided discovery is the most difficult style according to Sarah Ashworth, because you guide one person, you don't guide the entire group. So what happened is, in a typical lesson, I use PE lesson as an example, the teachers will ask a question, and then another question, a series of questions. Then one particular student will be answering those questions until he got the answers right. But you must understand, there are 40 students. Each of them may not be at the level to understand the question and also the experience of play. So in that sense, this particular episode, the teacher only guided the particular person to reach the desired response, which is predetermined by the teacher. The teacher already know the answer already. But unfortunately for the rest of the learners, they are lost because they do not know first the question. They may not even play the game, and then you say that you have guided the person. You have not guided the person. So why guided discovery is the most difficult? Because you only guide the individual. If you look at the picture here, the coach here is guiding one person, one at a time. Then and he go to the next person, he may even use a different stage. So I'm going to use this as illustration. So from step 1 to step 3, you have 3 questions, your 3 guiding questions, and then you want them to reach this answer. Okay, so once they reach the answer, you may have a few more steps to reach the target answer. This answer is already determined by you already. So you want them to slowly discover. So sometimes you can see coaches say this, and then what you do next? And then how? What is next step? What is next step? This is something like that. You guide the person. Then the students will, you can see them figure their body, especially gymnastics or dance. They will slowly shift their body, shift their weight, in tennis or whatever. And slowly you guide them. So what happened to your legs now? What do your legs do now? You guide them. Slowly but surely you will, you got it ready. This is how you should do. So this is guided discovery. It's as simple as that. It's guided discovery. But just I need to share you all is that it is only for one person. You can't guided discovery style for everybody or at one go. You have to individually guide everyone. So it favors more for the individual sports. Now you can't do a guided discovery for the entire football team, for example. Yes, you can. Technically you can, but not in one sitting. You may have to go to different players because some of them, each of them may start with step 3, where you ask from this step. Some of them are already quite advanced, you ask from this step. So you only have 3 steps to reach the target. Some maybe the very blur ones maybe start from ground 0 and then you ask and you reach the target. So this is the key idea of guided discovery. Okay, I'll leave the question and answer the last. This one I glossed through because these are all very, very straightforward stuff. Convergent discovery is you give a question, you set the scene for them, like a puzzle, and they all converge to the answer. They discover the answer. You don't guide them. You don't tell them what is it, but you want them to find on their own. Then there's a divergent discovery, where you give them a scenario, you give them a situation, you give them something to think about, and you want them to discover. But there's a divergence to it. There may be many answers within a certain parameter, of course. If you talk about sports, there should be a rule in between. There's a rule that guides all this, but they can go as creative as they can to find the answers. So these are the two styles. And I mentioned earlier, they discover, they come together, can be individual, can be as group. The coach make the decision, the subject matter decision, what target what target concept to discover. For example, where is the area where you have the highest chance to score a basket? I'm using basketball example. And this is a very common question amongst PE teachers. We don't tell them where to shoot. We don't tell them how. And we let them play. And at the end of the lesson, the teacher will ask this question, or maybe in between when they are going around the groups. So which do you think has the highest chance? Which place has the highest chance to score a basket? Most of them, if those, especially a class that is really quite well acquainted with the game of basketball, they will tell you that it's the highest potential is nearest to the basket. That's where they want to work towards. Every time when they form out the attack, they want to go as close as possible to the basket to score a high percentage shot. So you have, in that sense, converged the idea that the highest percentage shots are being shot near the basket. So this is, they converge, they find the answers on their own, not we tell them. If you can tell them, no, you go inside the basket, go basket. Sometimes they say, why? I can shoot 3-pointer, why must you let me shoot out, inside the basket? I want to shoot 3-pointer all the time. So no, you then discover, then they realize that, hey, I'm making a lot of shots under the basket. Oh, then in that sense, I will try my very best if there's opportunity to attack the basket, not to shoot from 3-pointers. Now, so the learners here will engage in reasoning, questioning, and logical sequencing, whatever, to make connection with the content. This is what we want them to discover. And the key thing is we shouldn't intervene. Our in a way, our design is such that they will definitely derive the answers for you. Now, divergent discovery is a little bit different. Divergent discovery, I use rock climbing as an example. There are many ways to reach the top. As long as they understand the footholds, how to manage their body, blah, 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 we leave them to discover on their own. So that's the divergent discovery. And I like to use divergent discovery in territorial sports. We want them to discover how best are we going to attack or defend this particular team. Okay, so they have to come up with the solutions. And sometimes you, as a coach and teacher, you will discover solutions that you never even thought of. That's where creativity comes in. Okay, the rest of the styles, I don't think you will use it a lot. I'm not too sure. Maybe some of you will. Maybe those people involved in fitness and conditioning, yoga, maybe. I think likely you will. It's more a learner design. So once you are given them the set of skill sets and techniques, they are able to design independence for them to discover for themselves a structure to resolve an issue. For example, you want them to work on their upper body strength. I may be wrong in this example, but they have to discover a structure of a program that will help them to increase their power, their strength, and so forth. They will interact with the subject matter and give and also logistical decision, what kind of weights to use, what kind of, do we use kettlebell, do we use slam ball, and blah, 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 and they come up with an individualized program. This picture depicts every student is involved in some kind of workout. I mean, this is a dream state. They all work on something else and it's on their own design. The teachers would have already done the last few weeks, all the routines. So now the teachers say, I want to work on your balance, for example. So they design their own balance workout. A learner initiated, this is already, the teacher is, or the coach is totally off. And this perhaps happens for, I don't know, maybe for more track and field, where they are already at a level to train on their own. This may be high performance sports already, and they design their own learning experience. They should be at that stage whereby they require very little instruction from you. They just want you to be there when needed. So this is the initiative event. They want to work the pre-season, what you call early season, they want to work on something, or post-competition, they want to work on something. They decide on their own. You just give them the frame, something to work on. So all these things are quite straightforward. So I think the slides may be made available. I'll let you know. So at this stage, the coach accepts the learner's readiness to make maximum decisions. So this is where total trust is given, and the athletes and the students are already ready to move on their own. But to be frank, I and J is seldom seen in schools, because I think we still model coded them. We still want them to work within our frame. But this is more adult learners, where they work on their own already. Okay, we are just there to be supportive and participate according to the learner's request. They may ask you for advice and so forth. This is already very hands-off. So for example, going on a hike, they make a decision on when to go, how to go, where to go, and so forth. Now, the last one is the self-teaching style. Well, we have reached the final style. Style K. Familiar scenes. I don't think they are taught by anyone. Maybe they have gymnastics background, I'm not too sure. But they have decided, this is a bit of non-linear pedagogy, what affordances are given to them. They decide on what kind of movement patterns they want to do, sometimes to undesirable consequences. So parkour is one. Parkour gym can start with a parkour gym, and slowly they will move to the real environment, urban environment. This is a style where they self-taught. Most of them will look at videos. They may not even interact with any human beings. They will interact with the videos. And that being said, it can be also a very dangerous style, according to the Americans, or according to Sarah, because everything is self-taught. And she told me quite in one of those conversations that why there are a lot of self-style killing and shooting in America is because a lot of them are holed up in their own life, own world, re-interacting with the wrong type of media, or reading some books that will incite certain kind of thoughts. So self-teaching, at the end of the day, the keyword is individuals select his own objectives. So means I do not want to get involved in anything by myself. So I've completed style K, which is the final style. And I don't think we are doing this kind of styles here. Now, question is, can we mix the styles? Yes, I earlier mentioned in the lesson, in a training session, you can mix and match the style. So when you mix and match the style, we call it the canopy. So you can adapt a bit of reciprocal style with practice style and so forth. You can do that. But if you read the text, if you have time to read a text, each landmark style has its own characteristics. So in the end, in a sense, I've completed my presentation. I will stop sharing now. And so I stop share, or should I just leave it on? I'm okay to take questions.
Hi everybody, I'm Belle from CoachSG. So just helping Azhar to take over this part on the Q&A. Yeah, Ben, I think we can take some questions now. Thank you for the information that you've shared. A lot of information actually, and it's really helpful. I think there were a few questions that were posted just now. especially on the reciprocal style. So I think there was a question from Geraldine who was asking about in the context of swimming. So for the reciprocal style, should this be a consideration for coaches in terms of safety aspect? If they let their friends be peer coaches, for example? Yeah,
yes,
so that's from Geraldine.
As I earlier mentioned, you need to know your trainees very well, athletes very well. They must be able to manage that safety portion. So safety is still paramount. We do not want to use reciprocal style on beginner swimmers, unless you are absolutely sure that you have eyes on them or the numbers are very low. So my point here is this: any style that you use, especially when you're interacting with young kids or new kids, new learners, or someone you don't really know the ability level, then the best is to fall back on a style that will more or less guide their behaviors. So I didn't share the video on swimming because there's a video on swimming on reciprocal style actually, but these are more advanced swimmers where they really work on their strokes and they really get someone to troubleshoot to the very T what went wrong with their strokes.
Yeah.
And as they talk about their strokes, when they are describing their technique and strokes, they are learning, they're internalizing some of the key cues of this particular technique. Yeah, so my advice is for those, if you're talking about swimming, then you must be very sure that the students are able to handle this aspect of it, this peer work.
Yeah, definitely. So the safety aspect is something that is very important that we have to look out for.
Yes.
Yeah, and then Esther has a question regarding the reciprocal style as well. She asked, how do we deal with students who are not willing to use the reciprocal style because they think that they are better than their peers? So some of the students who might not want to cooperate.
Good question. Because as I mentioned in the thing, the teacher has to set the scene for that lesson. So a lot of times teachers don't explain what they do in the classroom. I'm using this school PE lesson as an example. It may happen in a coaching scene. So the teacher will go in and do something, and then today they do something like this. Tomorrow they do something different, and the students get confused. Why is the teacher behaving this today? How come the teacher is not talking to me today? So what I told the teacher was, you set the scene for the lesson. Today, for example, the teacher said this. Today, Miss So and So, I'm going to use the reciprocal style. And she really do that. I have videos to show you that. She really tell the girls that I'm going to use the reciprocal style, and there will be a performer, there will be a peer observer. The peer observer role is this. So in that sense, the students know the expectation. Now, as for some students are too good to help their friends, then that's where I mentioned a little earlier, is the social and moral development. This is where the coaches or the teachers must explain to them their roles. Why are they doing this? Why are they helping someone to get better? Why are they doing this? And also explain to them that if you watch someone get better, you will get better, because you are also becoming you're starting to analyze skills, analyze concepts, and stuff like that. So in a way, there's certain form of coercing in a way.
Yeah, I agree. So I think this also.
Yeah. One more thing is grouping and pairing. A lot of teachers ask, should we pair equal ability students, mixed ability students with lower ability, high ability? It all depends on situation. Sometimes in certain contexts, like for example, you have a group of very high ability students, you may want to get two of them to work together because they are pushing the bar. Then there will be times where you want to get the high ability students to help the mid ability students because they are sharper. Of course, when it comes to reciprocal, the middle ability student may not add value too much, but it's okay. It's only one episode a lesson. What we want them to do is to help their peers.
Yeah, so I agree. Yeah, you mentioned that it's important to understand your students, where they are, and also to share with them why they are doing it in a different style. So I think another question from Sandy was about the self-check style. So she asked, how do we deal with students who are not willing to change or try out new skills to improve themselves?
Similar answers. I mean, at the end of the day, reciprocal, first they have to get used to the medium. The medium here is the criteria worksheet. It is not a 1 day, 2 day affair. It can be a series of lessons or sessions where the students acquaint themselves to the mode of learning. And that also comes with the design of the criteria sheet. Whether the criteria sheet itself is compelling enough for the person to look at it. Now, if you design a criteria sheet that is very little information, very little challenge, no levels at all, and straightforward, then of course the person using the particular criteria sheet or performance sheet may not want to do it because it is too easy or too difficult maybe. So key thing here is the medium of instructions where your criteria worksheet has to be spot on. Yeah. Or at least have levels where they can achieve. So if they can check off all the levels, then they have achieved a certain skill set.
Thanks, Benjamin. I think this also answers Esther's question on what a well-written criteria sheet should be like. So I think now maybe we open this time to more questions. If you have any questions, you can add it into the chat group. If not, you can actually unmute yourself and we can ask Mr. Benjamin Tan the questions directly.
Just call me Ben.
Ben, yeah. Okay, so yeah, if anybody would have any questions on the different spectrum of teaching styles, perhaps you can just put it into the chat group, or you can just ask your questions live. Yeah. So these slides will be made available on our CoachSG resource page. So don't worry, if you need to access to it, you can access it there.
There's this question. I don't know. It's sent to me privately, but I hope Shauna don't worry about this. Whether when we are shifting the decisions to the athletes, the coach will come across as not doing their job. I think our job extends beyond just shifting decision. We ensure their safety. We prep them. We are doing a lot more. Of course. If for example, this is a very warped example, very warped, is that the coaches don't even appear and say, okay, I WhatsApp you all the training thing, and you're just going to train on your own. That is maybe the other extreme. But then again, this could be a style, and it has to be accepted by both parties. Because sometimes, and especially now, your coaches can't be present. You may have given them a set of instructions for them to follow. I don't think you are, in a way, shirking your duty. And as I mentioned earlier, also in a lesson or in a session, coaching session, you toggle between styles. Yeah. Is there a progression of age range? No, there's no progression in a way. As I showed the example, even reciprocal style at P1, which is 6 or 7 years old, they really can handle already. Of course, your criteria sheet has to be age appropriate. That means ability appropriate, age appropriate. That means they can read, they can even maybe for the very young kids, it's more visual, pictorials, pictures, cartoons, and so forth. Words wise, keep it simple. Of course, as the athletes go older or more advanced, yeah, then you can be more technical. Yeah.
Okay. So perhaps I can just make a call again. If anybody has any other questions, you can feel free to post it in the chat group, or you can just ask the questions live. Yeah. Okay, I see a question from Michelle. So she's asking, what about students with attitude problems? How do we grapple with them?
This one is the most basic one. I think it's a very good question, and it addresses for everybody, including teachers. It is at the end of the day what we call the positive classroom culture. Now, positive classroom culture has a few aspects to it. One of which is trust, that they are working in an environment where they have a good rapport, the coaches and the teachers. Attitude problem is not overnight. You can solve it. Sometimes it takes a whole village to settle the whole thing. So I would solve the attitude problem first before I attempt to the more what we call complex styles, which is like guided discovery, where they go and discover. I will focus on, I won't say focus on command style. I want to focus on the decision making during practice style. What kind of decision can they handle? Slowly but surely, as I say, it's a tight loose type model. If they are able to handle the location decision where they practice, then slowly you move them on into making decisions on stopping time, starting time. Then if they can manage that, then we give them something. If you have done your dribbling drills and you think you're okay with it and you are very happy with it, you can move on to interval. Interval task is practice your shooting, for example. So it takes time. our teachers are also grappling with this attitude problems. And a lot of attitude problem is because of motivation, or also because of task design, task complexity. Is either too easy, too difficult, not challenging enough, or basically they are not interested. Okay, and sometimes we cannot solve everything in the world. It would be good if you can, but sometimes we have students. That's why the reciprocal styles, all these will come in, where they are in. Maybe I showed a photo just now. We have difficulty in reaching out to this boy verbally. Demonstration, he don't want. Hand holding, he doesn't want. So what happened is, when we show the criteria worksheet for them, to the pair, he was able to interact because he interact with media, with pen and paper better, interact with pictures better than someone talking. So yeah, in a sense, first, the classroom culture has to be built. It is not immediately you can deploy the styles and make it work. Sometimes it takes some time. Like reciprocal style, we took about 2 or 3 weeks before the students are assimilated to the style. And we keep on drumming to them that this is what you'll be doing today. Yeah. You'll be watching your friends. You'll be helping your friends.
Thanks, Ben.
Ben, if you could put up the slide that has got all the styles, then sure. As we speak, our participants here can make reference, sure. You know, to the entire spectrum.
Can.
Yeah. And I guess as someone who are listening in for the first time and hearing this, all the different styles, right, for the first time, I think the natural question would be, now, which is the best style to use, right? And and I think
my answer,
yeah,
straightforward lah. We have to acquire all these styles. In fact, at least we know. I asked the same question. Many of us ask the same question. There's no best style, but each style has its own uniqueness because it's called a landmark and the achievables. So every style is required. It's best to have a repertoire of skills, styles, because we are dealing with really a diverse learners, diverse population here. Gone are the days where I say you do. Now is different strokes for different folks. And let me say this: it doesn't mean that command style is bad. Command style has its place, because if I work with this Hungarian colleague of mine, the Hungarians started with command style. They get the pupils to march in unison. So a lot of people will think that why are they doing this? But what they wanted to do is to get the students to tune in to instructions, to blow the whistle, the timing, the spacing between the marches, the marching. And slowly but surely, as I mentioned, tight, loose, tight model, the slow dissolution, then they move into practice style. But the command style set the scene for a class spirit, class identity. They can march in unison. So when I started working with them, it was a basketball lesson. I said, why are they making them marching across the court? Then we realized that they are teaching them timing, spacing between players. Yeah. So all styles are good.
Yeah. So I guess we sometimes need to be reminded that this is a spectrum, it's a continuum, where even in a typical coaching session, we slide from one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum, depending on the way our players and our athletes respond to what we say, what we do, what we get them to practice, and so on. Would you agree with that, Ben?
Yes, yes. And one more thing I thought I shared earlier, be comfortable with chaos, especially when you're moving towards the discovery styles. You will definitely experience chaos. As long as it's an organized chaos where students are interacting with each other, finding their way out, then let it be. As long as they are interacting with your content, that means they are not doing something different. If you are getting them to practice something, then they should be practicing that, but they may be off a bit. It's okay. So there should be order in chaos, and so be it, because you want them to discover. So discovery is always very chaotic.
Okay, Yeah.
How do we
So,
prepare
yeah,
ourselves
I think,
well for different style?
yeah, we have another question from Ching Ho. So she
Ching-
asked, how do we prepare ourselves for different styles for different learners in a single session? Perhaps this is the last question we will take at this point because it's already 4:30.
Yes.
Yeah, and those who are interested in asking more questions, guys can stay back a little while after this. Yeah.
Yeah. This one is good. This is a question that okay, I maybe I'll flash this thing for you to. Okay, I didn't touch on this.
Yeah.
Sorry, give me a minute.
Just a point, please stay back a little while longer. We are conscious of time, you know,
Okay.
we already start past 4:30. Yeah.
I think this question is on planning. First, you need to, before any style can be used, you need to know the pre-impact. It means you need to anticipate. It means you need to know your students. You need to know your ability of students, the type of students, their preferences, and so forth. So that is where the pre-impact comes in. When you design any task or you decide to make any form of styles to be deployed in your lesson or a session, you need to already have quite a good understanding of your athletes. Then there's an impact. Impact is where you work on it, the enact part. Then after that, you have to in a way reflect again or check back to see whether your style works or not. If it doesn't work, then you have to go back through the cycle for the next one. So there's always a pre-impact. It's not like today you fancy you want to do reciprocal style, you walk in like that. No, you need to know that when you use reciprocal style, how would your students react? More or less, how would they react? Because you know them better. Yeah, so this is something I didn't touch on, but thanks for bringing this up.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you. Thanks Ching Ho for the question. So actually we have already reached 4:34. So if any of you have any further questions that you would like to engage Ben with, you can stay back after this session. But I would like right now to go to the feedback form.